So before February wraps up, I feel like I gotta do at least one more movie that's all centered around love. The love of a makeshift mother to a child and the love of a farmer to his pet, Babe. Yeah, this movie turns 30 years old in 2025, which is absolutely wild to me. As a kid, Babe was one of my all-time favorites. Like, I would watch this VHS tape so many times. So, like, I don't know, guys. I mean, it's going to be really, as a critic, this video is going to be very, very difficult for me to make, especially because it's a movie I love so freaking much. So we follow a farmer, played by James Cromwell, who wins a piglet named Babe at a county fair, narrowly escaping his fate as Christmas dinner when Farmer Hoggett decides to show him at the next fair. Babe bonds with motherly border collie Fly, voiced by the excellent Miriam Margolyes. And Babe discovers that he too can herd sheep. The farmer actually sort of discovers this when Babe organizes chickens by color. But will the other farm animals, including Fly's jealous husband Rex, accept a pig who doesn't conform to the farm's social hierarchy? The answer to that is yes. And man, this movie will tug at your heartstrings so freaking much. Don't get too distracted by the G rating, my friends. This is a family feature. I did not remember how fucking dark this movie was. And I don't know if it's just Mandela effect and I'm just not remembering it properly from when I watched it as a kid and some of these illusions just flew over my head. But when you have basically a duck beheaded at one point, Babe is almost Old Yellered in the shed, a sheep named Mom meets a bloody demise. The whole opening credits are scanning over a butcher shop showing the pig's insides. All while whimsical music by Nigel Westlake plays in the background. The instrumental version of If I Had Words, of course. Like, I don't know, guys. This movie, like, if you've never seen Babe before, like, obviously I'm going to get into some spoilers throughout this video. But if you're looking at the G rating and you look at the poster and you just think, oh, this is a cute little kid's movie about a pig. Yeah, surface level, maybe that's what it is, but this movie is way deeper and darker than that. But despite all of what I just listed, this is still a great family feature. It's very unconventionally presented to you in chapter form, which I guess shouldn't be too surprising. It was based off a famous book by Dick King Smith, a book which admittedly I started reading when I was like 7 years old, and I remember this vividly. I started reading the book and I was like, nah, I'll just put this down and I'll watch the movie. I don't even think I got 2 chapters deep, but I'm sure the book is way different. But it almost seems unconventional that a family feature about a talking pig should win all of these Oscars, or get nominated for all these Oscars, rather. It won Best Visual Effects back in 1995, but this thing could have won Best Picture, and it was going up against Apollo 13 and Braveheart. Like, that's wild to me. I never even realized it was nominated for so many Academy Awards until I was much older. So I was like, I guess I have pretty good taste. This casting team has some pretty good taste as well. They cast James Cromwell as Farmer Hoggett, a role that Cromwell didn't even really want to take because he actually read the script before he was offered the part, and he was like, he probably wouldn't take it because he didn't have a lot of dialogue. But I think I could equate this almost to a kid version of James Caan from Misery. Because he's right, Farmer Hoggett does not have a whole lot of spoken dialogue, but you see a lot of what he's thinking just in his eyes. And when you can get across so hard that you are just a gentle figure, not even really with a whole lot of words, because he's not a man of many words, hence the song If I Had Words. Like, it's kind of beautifully intertwined. And Cromwell has gone on to say that, yeah, he didn't make a lot of money for this movie, and he thought it was just going to be another little kid's movie. Lo and behold, it makes his entire career. He basically said he never had to audition again after Babe. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars himself. It's definitely still a great performance today. I still think it's one of the most underrated Best Supporting Actor nominees of all time. The voice casting they got was great as well. I mentioned Miriam Margolyes already as Fly, and she is such a gentle creature. A beautiful dog as well. Oh my goodness. When I was a kid, I wanted a sheepdog. Like, I couldn't tell you what it was. Like, I wanted a border collie in my house. Lo and behold, my parents had 2 dogs already, and they were smaller creatures. And now they've kind of softened up, and they got a gentle giant at their house in Julius. You've seen pictures of him before, but, I mean, if I have pictures again, I might as well show them here. Yeah, ain't he a cutie? You also have Danny Mann voicing Ferdinand the Duck. This is one of the most fun characters that I can remember from my childhood because he is just so frantic and so anxious. He actually uses the word anorexic to describe himself at one point. He's a duck who wants to be a rooster because he doesn't want to get eaten. He resorts to crowing and taking the rooster's job, waking everybody up in the morning. But then when the farmer's wife buys an alarm clock, it basically takes away his job. So now he's prime pickings for getting eaten, which leads to a very fun sequence inside the house with Ferdinand and Babe, which I still laugh at it to this very day because I just think Ferdinand's like, his anxiety explains it all. Before I forget, you also have Hugo Weaving voicing Rex, Fly's husband. This was technically my first introduction to Hugo Weaving before I kind of knew who he was and before I watched V for Vendetta and everything. Then I go back and I rewatch Babe all these years later and I'm like, holy crap, that was Hugo Weaving. He is so freaking domineering in this, but his background and why he is such a grizzled veteran of sheep herding, why his character is mostly deaf, like, it's some really killer exposition here, guys. Of course, with a titular character, the titular character himself cannot go overlooked. And thankfully, this movie had the late Christine Cavanaugh voicing Babe. May she rest in peace. That was a talent taken from us way too soon. Does that name sound familiar to you guys who were growing up with Nickelodeon? A little bit of trivia. The voice of Babe is also the voice of Chucky from the Rugrats. Bet you didn't know that. But she is just so earnest and so sweet about everything. And just the fact that Babe has to go up to these sheep and ask them nicely to do what he wants them to do versus the aggression of the wolves, as the sheep call them. It not only leads to some great comedy when Fly is trying to talk to the sheep and trying to ask them nicely for information, but it's all the more amazing when you see how Babe is able to get these sheep under his command. Lo and behold, he does have some help from Rex to get the password from the sheep. Ba-ram you. Ba-ram you. And the whole climax where Farmer Hoggett enters Babe into the sheep herding contest, even though he's clearly not a dog. Farmer Hoggett as the trainer just has to stand there and Babe just has to ask the sheep nicely to move along. And it is one of the most cathartic endings, I think, of all time.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
There's so many sequences in this movie, too, that'll just make you, like, want to get up and cheer. But this movie just plays with your emotions so much. Like I said, lots of moments of tearing up. Ma's death is certainly very tragic. The whole opening where Babe's mom is taken away, presumably to go in many packs of Jimmy Dean sausage. And then seeing Babe crying and seeing his mom walking away into the meat truck. Like, that's heartbreaking, man. Like, again, if this movie turned you into a vegan, like, I'm not going to argue with that, honestly. But I think there's two scenes that really, really got me on this rewatch. The first one is when Fly is watching her puppies get sold off. And just Westlake's music in the background, seeing Fly's facial expressions, even though she's an animal, you can certainly tell that she is pained. And it was too early for her to let go of her kids in the moment. And then shortly afterward, Babe goes up and asks a simple question.
May I call you Mom?
That really got me. And then the other one is a scene I'm sure everybody remembers close to the end of the second act where Farmer Hoggett is feeding Babe. And the farmer is singing to his pet and Babe is just, it's so cute, guys. And yeah, tears were shed during that scene when I rewatched it. And and then I started laughing again because he does this silly dance. James Cromwell gets up and he does this silly little jig. Like, this movie is just nostalgia personified. It is childhood personified for me. It's, like, for lack of a better word, magical. Everything, voice acting, direction from Chris Noonan, which, again, like, this is what's crazy to me. Chris Noonan was at odds with producer George Miller. And this would turn out to be one of the only things Chris Noonan ever did as a director, because George Miller hated his fucking guts. Production design was phenomenal. The farmer's house actually looks like something out of the Shire. Like, I want to live on this farm. And yeah, the visual effects, honestly, if we're gonna nitpick anything, you could say that the visual effects might look a bit dated 30 years later, because you can certainly tell when there's an animatronic in there, and you can tell when there is just computer-generated images to make the animals talk. But for 1995, this was revolutionary, man. And I think it still looks pretty darn good, even just watching it after the fact, even knowing that these are fake effects. This is still a very wholesome and very dark family feature that I think can cater to any audience. Believe it or not, I'm going to give Babe an A+. Yeah, it turns out, it doesn't feel like I took my rose-colored glasses off really at all, which I think that's a testament to how wonderful this movie truly is. Even sitting here as a 28-year-old man, as much as I loved it when I was a little kid, I love it even more now. Let me know what you guys think of Babe. Have you seen it? Did this convince you to go and check it out for yourself? I love getting in front of this camera. I love discussing all things in the cinematic world with you guys on the regular. Hit that subscribe button if you're new and tap on that thumbs up as well, please. There's also a movie called Last Breath that I'm very curious to check out because George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers endorsed it. But yeah, guys, thank you again so much for your continued support. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.